and welcome to Business Unusual. This is where we talk matters kingdom business, and like we say, we are looking at the kingdom business person. What is the internal configuration of this person that makes him the kind of person that heaven will say, we have found a man in the earth that can take the kingdom principles into the business arena? This is what we are talking about. My name is Susan Opio.
My name is Charles Opio.
Now, we've been looking at the basic and fundamental principles in the Bible that people have domesticated in the church. And we are asking ourselves, how do we as kingdom business people take these principles into the world, build them into the lives of people, have impact and influence that is tangible out there? Now, we've looked at the Great Commission. We've looked at dominion. We are looking at stewardship. We want to see these words that we use and we actually relegate them to the church services, to the church activities.
Absolutely.
How do we use them as kingdom business people out there and have impact?
I think it's so important for us at this point to explain a concept of perception.
Okay.
Because as we're going to speak about stewardship, perception becomes crucial.
Oh, yes.
Now, perception has to do with how you see something, not how something is. Now, the danger with that is that when you see something in a particular way, you limit that thing to function within those parameters.
Okay.
Now, because for a long time, our eyesight has always limited kingdom things to church activity, there are many words we had to force in. It's like entering something that a suit you don't fit in. So you have to fit everything in no matter what, because there's no other way for you to interpret it. Now, when we bring that into play, once we remove that restriction, we begin to see more clearly.
And when we talk about the word steward, for example, like what you're saying, forcing things, the only way we could interpret the word steward is every time I hear that word, I hear money.
Exactly.
So I'm looking at, I want to be a good steward of the money. Of the finances of the kingdom. Those are statements we make.
And not just of money. Again, perception. The idea of steward brought an idea of budget. It meant one who manages scarce resources. That's our understanding of a steward.
The resources are scarce, but I want to manage that scarce.
Let them fit. Don't let them run out, otherwise you'll be wasting.
And that's what we have used it.
That's what we thought.
It has affected how we see God, how we view the kingdom, how we view finances in the kingdom. Because when we think of stewardship, we actually think of limited resources.
Absolutely.
Scarce resources.
And so many times the term steward has been applied very wrongly. Whenever somebody is seen to be enjoying something, whenever somebody is seen to be spending on something good,
that's not a good steward. No.
They are not a good steward.
They are not a good steward.
You see, already that's a problem.
Let's talk about this word and say, can we what's the definition? What's our definition of this word? Looking at the Bible. When I say our definition, we are saying go back to the word and ask ourselves, when the Bible talks about stewardship, what does it mean? Now,
every time the word steward is used in the Bible, especially in the parables, it talks of somebody who's left with an estate to manage.
An estate.
An estate, not a few shillings. To manage. The other term for steward used is one who is put in charge of an enterprise. That's the word for steward. And the one we're going to look at now in Matthew 25 is the one, everybody knows the story in Matthew 25, the parable of the talents. This is an interesting terminology for a steward. It says that the master gave each according
to his ability.
Now that's a key word. Stewardship has to do with ability.
We need to say here that Matthew 25, 14 to 29, that's a scripture that you need to actually right now pause, go and read it so that you understand
where we are coming from.
When you talk about the stewardship in these particular scriptures, you'll understand where we are coming from. The parable of the talent.
Exactly. And I'm hoping you've just paused and you've come back. You've now read. Now, let's continue from there. Now, it means this. It says the master was about to travel and he gave talents. My goodness, if we knew how much a talent was in terms of today's figures, then you'll move away from your concept of steward.
And again, let me just say something there about the talents. Again, we thought that when we say 5 talents, it's 5 equals in today's language, 10 million or 30 million. No. When you talk of talent, talent is what they used to weigh gold. So you can't say that 5 talents equals 10,000 shillings. No. It's the same way you can say when we talk about metrics.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
So you're saying that this much gold weighed 1 talent.
Exactly.
2 talents, the weight of gold. With that understanding,
It
we
changes the
remove the
perspective.
concept of 1 talent is $30 million.
Yes. And then the other people who jump and take the other side, I don't know why we get all these dichotomies.
Yes.
Once your perspective separates spiritual from natural,
yes.
you keep getting dichotomy. There's another group that interprets talent to primarily mean your gifts and abilities. Yet this scripture combines. It says he gave them talents according to their ability. So the gifts and abilities were matched with resources.
So talent here is resources.
Yes.
Then there's the gift, the ability, which is your?
Yes, your capacity
your skills
to manage that resource.
Okay.
So in other words, he did not give anybody resources to manage who did not have ability to manage the resources. And this is the catch. He did not tell them to keep it safe. In fact, what we've understood to be talent is the 1 talent.
The one who did not do anything.
That's our understanding of stewardship.
Now, if you notice, like what you're saying now, we rarely concentrate on the 5 and the 2.
Nope.
We always go to the 1.
Exactly.
The one who did not have.
Yes.
Who did not do anything
exactly.
with it. All right? So let's deconstruct this parable of the talents. Let's understand when the master says he has left 5, the 2, and the 1.
Yes.
Number 1, you said he did that according to their ability.
Exactly.
All right?
So he gives us resources with responsibilities.
Okay.
That's the principle here.
But he gives resources. Can you understand
listen.
that?
First of all, he knows your ability.
Okay.
Within your ability, which means your gifts and your talents, he gives you a resource. With that resource comes a responsibility. And the primary responsibility here is interesting.
Okay.
The primary responsibility for them was to increase. That's a strange responsibility.
When he gave them the talents, the Bible talks about the master was going.
Yep.
Wherever he was going,
he
didn't tell them what to do.
He didn't.
No instructions.
Nothing.
But he has given you resources according to your ability.
Exactly.
Then he lets you.
So he allows innovation. He allows creativity.
Okay.
He allows capacity. But what is he expecting from you? Increase. When he comes back, whatever processes you have engaged should have brought increase.
Now, let's go back before we go on to the increase. Let's talk about ability here.
Yes.
Now, he says that 1 was given 5, another 2, another 1, but we never miss the point according to their ability.
That's the key.
Now, does this mean that each of the 3 stewards knew their ability?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Otherwise, the master had no reason accusing the last one. He accused him because he did not use his ability. He kept the resources. He did not match his resource to his ability.
All right? So we are saying now we have 2 people. We have people with 2 mentalities. Dichotomy again.
Yes.
There are people with resources. They don't know what to do.
Absolutely.
So what do? Hide, like the 1.
Absolutely.
And then there's this other group with resources and abilities. Now they have the ability with no resources.
Exactly.
Because they're not coming to a place of
understanding. Now, and the reason we've had that for a long time, we've had this idea. Now, let's step out of the picture.
Okay.
In our picture, we say, our picture,
I like
not God's.
It's our picture, not God's, yes.
We say God gave some people ability and other people
resources.
Not correct. God gives everybody ability and resources. The only difference is that sometimes you think you have resources. No. You have the ability to create resources.
Say that again. Let's say that again.
You see the mistake?
Okay.
You think, me, I have resources. You have ability. No. I have ability to create resources. You have ability to multiply the resources.
Okay. Let's go back. Remember, we are talking about, when we talk of resources and ability, let's talk a language. Let's talk our language today.
Yep.
There is one person who thinks, I have finances.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
I have the means to do a business.
Exactly.
But I don't have ideas.
Yes.
Now, if you didn't have ideas, you'd not have resources in the first place.
You have ideas to make resources.
Okay.
Stop trying to get my ideas. Your responsibility is the one that has to do with you releasing resources.
Okay.
So when you have ability to create resources,
Yes.
your responsibility is to put the resources elsewhere.
You don't keep the resource to yourself.
Exactly.
So even the person who says, okay, I have the finances, I don't know what to do. Now, what did you do
Yes.
to get the resources? Unless you're
a thief.
That's the only person who can say, I have no clue what to do with the money I have.
Or unless
because
you
did
borrowed.
something, unless you borrowed. All right? So again, we have to go back and ask ourselves, when you come to a place of, I have resources, I'm looking for ideas, let's go back. How did you get the resources?
Yes.
Because if you borrowed, that's not the kind of person we're talking about.
Exactly.
If you stole, that's not the person you're talking about.
Exactly.
What about inheritance?
Inheritance is okay. That is resources. Because God says a good man lives.
An inheritance.
So inheritance falls in the same category of resources that have been placed in your hands by virtue of where God has placed you.
So what about this having an inheritance? And here we are just going off what you're talking about.
Yes.
But they have no idea what to do after that. And
now,
by the next generation, the inheritance is gone.
Now let me backtrack a little and explain what you've just asked on resources.
Yes.
What did we say? Everybody has ability and God gives resources according
to your ability.
Inheritance is resources according to your ability.
Okay.
So God has already placed ability in you and He'll bring resources. Now, if you do not, if you bury your ability, that's the answer.
So, going back to the same thing, especially on the issue of inheritance, because we have seen this.
Yep.
Does that mean that, yes, somebody receives inheritance, but they don't value their ability?
Yes.
They don't think their ability is what is needed to multiply the resources they have received.
Let's place it simply.
Yeah.
Inheritance outside of God brings you to another parable or another statement in Proverbs.
Okay.
It says, a fool
his money.
And his money. Whose money?
His.
Will soon be parted.
Will soon be parted. That's the Bible.
Simple.
That is Solomon talking.
That is Solomon.
One of the wisest men who ever lived.
So what happens?
Yeah.
See, this is the thing. If inheritance is coming your way, please sharpen your ability.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing God is matching again. That's the master placing talents with you, so it can come through inheritance.
Because we know inheritance, the Bible talks about a good man leaves an inheritance for his children.
And their children.
And their children. Now, inheritance here, of course, we look at it from two perspectives. There is where the good man leaves resources.
Yes.
He must leave resources.
Yes.
But a good man, that same good man, should leave knowledge.
Yes.
Because many people leave resources with no knowledge.
By sharpening the abilities of your children, you're leaving them with an inheritance.
Yes.
The capacity for them to multiply their talents.
But any man who does not know how he got his wealth does not know how to sharpen the ability of his children.
Exactly. And that is why they lose it. In other words, wealth is always moving.
Yes.
In or out,
yes.
It is always moving. That's a principle.
So this is a good place to say there are three kinds of people when it comes to inheritance, when it comes to wealth.
Yeah,
those who are increasing, those who are decreasing, and there's a group that is on transition.
Either up or down.
Going up or down. You better identify yourself.
Where
am I? Now, if you find yourself in none of the three, woe unto you.
You can't not find yourself in one of the three.
Woe unto you.
If you can't find yourself in one of the three, you've reached. You either reached decrease or increase. So this is the principle.
Yeah.
So the whole idea is, now talking of the other person who has ideas and no resource. A God idea finds a resource. Resource and God's idea always pair. That's the problem of the talents. God will pair them.
So you can't stop and say that God has given me a powerful idea, but I have no resources. That is somebody who is not either using their abilities or not using their thinking in the sense of you have to keep talking to God, because if God has given you an idea, now you don't take the idea and leave God behind.
Exactly.
I have an idea.
In fact,
but you don't want anything to do with God after that.
Many people who say they have an idea and there's no resource, your idea has not matured to resource point.
Because God idea
if it reaches, resource will show up.
Yes.
It has not arrived at resource point.
Now let's say something here. When you say that somebody has an idea, all right, and it has not reached that mature place of attracting the resources, the resources you are also saying are given by God.
Absolutely.
Not your own effort.
Absolutely.
It's not you sitting down and saying, now I'm using all my strength to look for supporters of this idea.
Let me use a practical example, one of our own. And I'll go from the principle, and for now, I want to talk to the preacher side for you to understand what I mean.
Okay.
I know I've met many preachers who say, God has called me to preach. What I need is a PA. The only reason I've not gone preaching is I don't have
a PA.
I don't have a microphone. I don't have. All those are lies.
Yeah.
If God called you to preach, you'd be preaching.
Because I love what you just said. When God gives you an idea, he pairs it with the resources.
Simple.
And we see it in Matthew 25, where he gives according to their ability.
Yes.
The two come together.
Yeah.
But the problem is when we say that, yes, I have money, I don't have an idea.
Yes.
I have an idea, I don't have money. Those two people are not connected. They are not in alignment.
Well, when I'm saying a practical example, I'll give you our own example.
Okay.
We had lived outside the country for a number of years. By the time we came back, there's a season God processed, and then God told us it's time to have a particular kind of meeting.
Okay.
The day, notice the word, the day we came into that conclusion and said, from next week, we need to start a meeting in a particular facility in the city. That week, that day, somebody found a facility nobody was using. That day, someone called and said, I heard you guys are beginning the meeting. Do you have a PA? By that evening, we had the meeting. We had the PA, brand new. We had everything in place. We never had a PA before for that kind of a meeting. What does that tell you? If it is God, he'll pair it.
And you should have said also, you had fought with that idea.
Yeah,
and
for a long
you
time.
had told God, no.
I don't want to do this.
I don't want this
I'm
kind
done with this kind of Christianity.
Yes.
And then we felt God gave us a blueprint of
Yes.
how to do it. That's why some of you will know our mentality of church unusual.
Yes.
That's where it came from. When we were ready, when the idea was mature, God paired with the resources.
So when you talk about an idea from God,
Yes.
the same God who gives you an idea has the ability and the willingness
Yes.
to give you the resources. The problem is when, like what I said earlier, you take the idea and run with it.
Exactly.
But you're not interested with God now.
And like
Instead
we said,
of saying the same God of the idea is the same God of resources.
Remember where we began on stewardship?
Yeah.
Your perspective. You see, your perspective of God, if it is built into the environment that God's idea needs man's resource, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because after you're done with God, now who do you look for?
The man. And God tells you now, you've started putting in your own effort,
Yes.
your own energy, your own understanding. Human intelligence cannot access a God idea.
It's true.
We have to come to that realization.
Yeah. And listen, God can give you an idea
Yes.
to sell something. An idea, but it will be God. And if it is God, you won't struggle.
All right?
You don't have to start pushing it. You know, God told me to do this. I hear that a lot. And it's not out of, let me say, it's not that people are wicked. It's because of the perspective of God they were introduced to.
Yes.
Where I met a lot of people with great things they believe God has called them to do, but now they're coming to you to fulfill that part missing. Yet they're saying it is of God. In other words, God has told me to do this.
Yes.
Now I came to you so that you can help me with, wait.
There's
Something is wrong with that
There's somewhere
statement.
you're missing. There's
Yes.
a place where you're letting go
Of God,
of the
the God who
same
gave
God
you.
who gave you the idea. And when we talk about stewardship, you're saying a way of thinking and a lifestyle
Yes.
in which we receive the resources and responsibilities
Yep.
from God. Because when you talk about responsibility,
Yes.
this is when we say, wait, I've been given these resources. I need
Yes.
to do something.
Yes.
You've been repeating something here, that your perception of God.
Very
now,
crucial.
the man who had one talent
Yes.
said something crucial,
Yeah.
which maybe we all say.
Yes.
I perceive you to be a hard man,
Simple.
reaping where you have not sown.
Exactly.
That was his perception. That was not God.
It was not
that
true.
was not the master.
In fact, for you to prove it was his own perception, the man who
Had five and two.
What did the master do when he took this resource? He gave it to the other
one
one.
with
So
five.
did he reap where he has not sown?
No.
No. That
So-
means his perspective was the problem.
That's powerful.
Yes.
When God gave them, when the master gave them, this is
Yes.
a parable. When the master came back, he did not take it back.
Yes.
He actually took it and gave to another.
Exactly.
This man said, I know you to be a hard man.
Yes.
Now that is my perception of you.
Exactly.
That's not who you are.
That's the truth.
Now he was told, if you knew me
Yes.
to be a hard man, fine. Let's go with your perception.
Yes.
If you knew me, you should have put that in the bank.
Truly,
to
if you
even
say you
get
knew me.
something.
Yes.
You understand?
Exactly.
So what you've been saying is that our perception of God,
That's it.
we've been introduced to the wrong God.
Yeah. You see,
A broke God, first of all.
absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of us know a poor God.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know,
Very
poor God who has limited resources.
Yes.
And if you abuse the little he has given you, he won't give you any more.
No, he will not. And in fact, most people he doesn't even give
just
by the thought that I'm not ready.
Yes.
He even just tells you, I'm not ready.
Yeah, and some of us also have that perception.
Yeah.
The only reason God hasn't given me is because he knows I'm not yet ready.
I'm not ready.
My friend, you were never ready, and you will never be
You
ready.
will never be ready for the kind of resources.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is the resources that tell us if you're ready.
Yes.
In other words, God has so much abundance that he's willing to give you to lose so that you know that you don't know.
That is what we saw in the parable of the talent.
Yes.
He was not coming to tell them, how much profit did you make?
Exactly.
No, that was not his interest.
No.
His interest was, when I gave you the 2 and the 5,
yes,
you used your ability.
That's it.
When you used your ability and made 10,
yes,
he did not say make another 5.
No.
Now, he gave him 1 on top of that.
Add
he
to
said
him.
something.
Yeah.
That he'll give you rulership over cities.
Yeah. You see, the same parable now uses the parable of the minas in Luke.
Yeah.
Same talks of same parable, but now Luke gives us another perspective, where the man who had multiplied is told, because you've been faithful with this, I will give you rulership over more cities. So what does that tell us? That what God is looking for is the kingdom. Remember we talked about dominion?
Oh, yes.
Kingdom dominion. The more dominion you have, the more dominion you get. The more responsibility to cover more territory.
Notice, in God, there is no end.
There's no end.
It's an increase, because the person with 5 multiplies 5, but gets 1 more. Meaning, in the next run, you will not have 5.
That's the idea.
If he was to go the same path, he will be at 22.
Exactly.
Meaning, in God, there's always an increase. The Bible talks about that the increase of his kingdom.
There shall be no end.
And peace, there shall be no end.
You know, Jesus finishes that particular parable with a very strange statement. To him who has, more will be given. To him who does not have, even the little
he has
will be taken.
Now that statement, like you're saying, he says something. You who has little, that thing will go.
Absolutely.
Now, many people are sitting and wondering, I don't have an idea, I don't have finances, not realizing, no, it was taken.
Yeah.
If you found this brother, you realize these are people in the kingdom.
It's
the
true.
Bible talks about the master and his servants. Jesus giving that principle, he was showing kingdom principles.
Absolutely.
Meaning these are brethren.
Yes.
These are people in the kingdom. Now, that tells us there are people in the kingdom who will multiply the 5, the 2, but there is people in the kingdom, and that's the one we have met.
Yes.
The people who bury that which they have.
And listen, if you bury, it will be taken. Simple.
Yeah.
There's so many ideas that you've had in your life. Where are they now? Yet, I can guarantee you, you know people who are doing them.
Yeah.
They were taken.
Sometimes,
because you buried them.
Very far from you.
Yeah.
In the spirit, that idea was hanging.
Why does
Somebody
God do
downloaded
that?
it.
Why does God do that?
Yeah.
Because there's no idea God gave you for you. Every idea really given by God is for the benefit of others. God will not delay the benefit of others because you're burying something. And that's why it's all, and you know the worst thing about when God gives to another? It's found in the story of Samuel when he tells Saul, God has found another better
than you.
That's the worst thing.
And it is sad to even think that God can tell me to do something, and then God says, you know what, there's another better than you. That statement is sad.
Yes.
Going back to the same statement of the steward, where he says, you wicked.
Yes.
He calls this servant wicked.
Yes.
And this is a brother or a sister, whichever.
Yes.
But we are saying that you're a kingdom person.
Yeah.
But the master says, you wicked. You
know why he is wicked? Let me talk to somebody today. You are wicked because the song you never wrote has cost somebody who would have sold it. It has cost a producer who would have earned some money. That is your wickedness. The book you never wrote has cost someone who would have found an answer. The project you never started has cost somebody a job. So you are wicked.
You're wicked because there are so many people. Remember what we said earlier when you talked of the Great Commission?
Yes.
That as a pioneer, there are things you do that cause others to enter rest.
Yes.
But when you don't do them, you're causing other people to live in frustration because of what you've not done.
Absolutely.
But God says something. I find another better than you. Talking about stewardship.
Absolutely.
And talking about the reward of stewardship in the kingdom is greater responsibility. So you have to ask yourself as a kingdom business person, dominion, Great Commission. Now we've said stewardship. Are you walking in this?
Yes.
Can you look at yourself and say, the ability in me, I can tell you it's matching the resources God has brought to me.
And let me make a statement on that stewardship that may help somebody. When you have something, an idea God has given you, don't go looking for money, but go telling people about your idea. Two different things.
Yep.
Magnify the idea, not the money.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are situations we've been in where somebody has come and shared their idea and God spoke to us to get involved. They didn't. But because we saw the impact of that idea in changing someone's life, that's when we responded. So God will respond with the resource when your idea is magnified. There are places your idea will be stolen. Good for you. It will teach you growth. There's nothing wrong with that either.
Kingdom business, this is what we're talking about, where we say there's always an ability that is matched with resources. Where are you at? Kingdom business, keep tracking.